I've often heard the argument of being ignorant to what's going on in the world is a very frowned upon thing. However, I've come to a personal conclusion that sometimes I'm better off just not knowing about a lot of things going on, especially with the news, both locally and overseas. They always say that, good news doesn't sell. I don't necessarily believe that, but there's a lot of bad news to report. And I find that between the different amounts of negative atrocities that are going on, whether it be wars or poverty or famine or disease or outbreaks or disasters or locally crime, murders, car crashes, really, when you sit and consume that, you don't feel very good, right, about the world. You don't feel very safe. And sometimes I ask myself, what am I really gaining by knowing all these things? I mean, isn't it better to be just happy, more blissful, more ignorant,
Humans, we pay more attention to negative news. So it captures your attention more for whatever biological or fundamental reasoning, right? And negative news sells, like you said. I rarely see any positive bits, right? Especially in mass media. So it's always like this happened, that happened, this negative thing. And so what you end up developing is actually a whole perception that the world is full of negative events,
and
like things that hurt, cause harm.
Things to fear.
Yeah, and so it creates a sense of fear. And so then when you're inundated with a lot of fear, you stop seeing the hope, the positive. So whether there's a massive conspiracy theory that says like media is just trying to get you fearful in life and not prosper and blossom, I could subscribe to that as well. And so Johnny, I actually, just like Johnny, I don't watch news anymore, not from like mass media stuff. And I try to stay away from the news in general. It's important, it's hard because it's important to know and be aware of what's going on. But what I fundamentally don't like is that the news or the media I'm consuming, I fundamentally feel like it's being censored and filtered or presenting a certain perspective that is blocking another view. And that's what I don't like.
I think most of us are fairly informed these days because of the exposure of our phones and different media platforms that go beyond just like the regular news that we grew up watching. But in a conspiracy sort of sense, do you think that there is some kind of agenda to push fear, to push terror, for people to be more sort of resistant to go out or to feel comfortable in the world and kind of combat each other and fight? Or is that just sort of a byproduct of
human nature?
I
mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think it might be a product filling in and supplementing our innate response to things, right? Just like, they've tweaked algorithms in your social media so that, you're constantly getting dopamine hits, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. If you ever find yourself fearful, right? Fearful causes a biological stress response, right? Your focus narrows, you become reactive. Over time, you become irritable, you become disagreeable. All of that stuff adds up from fear. And fear, from my perspective, is also sourced from a lack of clarity, right? Like you're fearful because you're unsure of something that's going to happen.
Right.
But if you knew what was going to happen, or you knew that as much as you don't know what would happen, the outcome is something positive, something you want, then you don't have fear. You enjoy the journey of going to that positive outcome. Right? And so I do believe the fact that all we get is negative media propagates all this tension.